Can't make this stuff up sometimes. That's the seal that's leaking really bad. There's no play in the shaft, but so there's the missing, like that's all bent loose. That one's missing. This one's all mangled and completely loose for that sprocket hub. That's why I needed the bolt. But good thing we were in here because this isn't even tight at all. I got the seal out for the shifter shaft because I got a seal kit, so that wasn't a very good seal. It's all rock hard and crusty. But I'm in here taking all this off because we're going after that seal. And I got a new seal for this too, which is, can't tell here, but that is, yeah, looks okay, but everything looks so super oily there is because there is supposed to be an O-ring inside of this guy. Which, nope. No O-ring, because the seal, oh, stop flashing. The seal seals the outside of this race, which actually doesn't look very good. But anyway, the seal sits on the outside, and there's supposed to be an O-ring on the inside that seals this shaft to the inside of this collar or spacer. So that's why everything over here is all super oily, is because of that. Again, that's getting a new seal. I've got all these seals. But the other good thing, or a good thing about taking this apart is that all of this was leaking here, down here. And then if you look back up in here, right there, you can see that hose kind of has a little bit of a pinch to it because it was wedged between the two case halves for this whole cover, and this whole cover was loose. And this oil injector has a tube that goes in it to oil inject to the rotary valve, and it comes out that little nipple in there. That was in backwards. So it's got a check valve in it that basically allowed oil, if it wanted to puke the whole tank of oil all the way through and just dump it into the motor because the check valve was in backwards. So the flow wouldn't be held back. It would just want to go in instead of being under pressure. So just got to check some other things here. Like for whatever reason, the pump is on, but the pump doesn't really look like it's sitting close against the face. And all of this guy was mangled. I had to rebend this as best I can so that the cable gets captured in there. But that thing was all mangled, and the pump wasn't set right. Got to do something about how this is getting wedged in the carburetor area. That's the new petcock. Doesn't look great that kind of comes out this way. I don't know if I can do anything about it because that's that Harley Davidson one. So we'll see what we can do. But it seems like everything I've touched on here, it has an issue. I don't know how far I go. It's just everything. There's something an issue with all of it. So trying to correct as much as I can, doing what I need to do. But I think I'm going to have to go and pull this back off because this guy is pretty crusty for that seal. And this is just an auxiliary shift shaft. I guess they could have done shifting from both ways on this bike, which I find cool that they made it both ways. I don't think you could do the brake both way though. But the shifter shaft is actually on both sides. And on this side right here, they just put a rubber cap over top of that guy. I don't know that I've ever seen that. That's pretty unique. But maybe they could have done a brake on either side. Not sure. But anyway, so I think I'm going to do all the seals on all of that. And then the only thing that in the seal kit, that guy, which would be crank seals. That crank seal was out. The main sprocket that goes on there, I could see that the crank seal was out against the actual sprocket instead of pounded into the rotary valve cover. I don't know that I can get the gasket for the rotary valve cover without hand making one. Not 100% sure on that, so I didn't touch it. But something that makes me a little bit more concerned about it is how plasticky they all are. And I think the richness on why the pipe was plugged is because of the oiling. And I don't know how long it ran. It's hard to say if that injector, the injector check valve was backwards. Well, it's going to be super oily no matter what. Again, with the issues of the carburetor and everything that had to be done there, it's really, really hard to say. But down inside there is the crank seal way back That's the stator plate that you can see there, but way off to the back shadow area is where the crank seal is, and that's all wet. I'm going to clean it off and run it once I'm done doing all of this and see if we've got leakage. Those are not the easiest to replace because the old type are metal. Like that's a metal with rubber molded in it, like this guy, which is the crank seal. Nope, sorry, these are the cranks. These two are the crank seals. This guy is that sprocket one. But even the old crank seal type are this type. So you can't get a pry bar in there to pry them out. Typically, they're installed with the crank out. So I don't know if that's going to be something I can do or can't do. And then again, with your baffle and your pipe, I mean, this is the baffle, which is open. But you can see that's how much carbon is in there. That's actually all carbon. That's not a weld. That's carbon. And that's all we can see from the baffle on the outside area. The reality is that the true plug, or how bad it's plugged, is because of up inside there in that back chamber is actually where the baffling is and the packing is. And the packing, you can see right there's the spot weld that holds it in. And then spot welds. And these bolts pass through it, but are chambered away from it. So then you can see spot weld. So normally, because this pipe looks so good, I would just put a torch right to this and just bake the crap out of it to try to get it open. But without the baffle in there, it is louder, yes, but the engine can breathe. That's the main thing. I got such a mess in here. Been trying to get done what I can get done, but to truly work on your bike, I got to move everything out of my way, and it's raining, and I can't have half the bikes taken apart outside. So that's kind of the thing. But it's the long story short, with your baffle, it goes through the center and then can go out. And even though this isn't straight through, and I don't know if I could do that to this baffle. I mean, I had to mangle it to get it out of there because it's just so carboned up. I'm going to bend all that out, but can't really run this anyway. I mean, I could put the tip in there and cut this off. But the point is that the air goes through the center till it hits the wall right here, allowed out into a chamber, then goes back in, and then out the pipe. So that basically from here to here link is in the pipe that I can't get to, and that's where the pluggage, that's where the blockage is in that piece. Normally 99% of pipes, that's all removable and we can get past the blockage, but not in yours, which sucks because I'd really like to have it open. Normally they look like this. Like this is normally how we pack the baffles, is the air goes through here, out, through here, through the center, out, through a chamber, then into here, which this is the noise, this is the packing, and then ends up coming out the end as the normal muffler. This is replaceable. That's what I'm doing here, is I got to rewrap this because it's just so soaked in oil, the air can't go through it, but this is what quiets up the pipe. Again, with yours, the crappy part is that's all inside. So this is, I wouldn't call it straight piping it, but this makes a hell of a difference in the performance of it, only because it's plugged, not because of it being a better pipe or less restrictive. It's restrictive because it's plugged. And again, I have no way to get in here without cutting it open. And I don't really want to cut it open. It's such a nice looking pipe. Normally what I would do is I just put it in a bonfire and let it bake all the oils out and hope that it opens itself up. But again, it being such a pristine pipe, I'm not 100% sure what to do about it, except for to run it with the baffle out. And it's a little noisy, but that's okay. I mean, that's not gonna hurt it, just noisy. Something I gotta do is I gotta weld onto this. You can see the groove that's in there. That'll never seal in there. And the reason, well, part of the reason where this mark is, it should have been symmetrical, that no matter which way you put this guy in there, that it would rub normal on the seal. There's a ball missing in here. There's supposed to be a ball bearing that tip rides on the shaft that's actually in that hole so that the friction is less, and that this can stay stationary without rotating, but it's been rotating because the ball is gone. This guy, when the clutch pushes on it, the clutch is spinning inside of there, but the contact area between this and the face of the post or the shaft that's inside of there, or the pin that looks like this, too much contact area face to face, which transfers this guy to rotate. There's supposed to be a ball bearing, just one ball inside of there to keep the friction down, and then the clutch can spin without trying to rotate this guy, which you can see it's been rotating it for a while, which ends up making the groove inside of it, and then also makes the clutch not operate properly by this guy. When we do cables, this guy's got to be all the way down. If we have to adjust the cable to do that, well, you lose the throw. You lose the throw of how much you need to go. And if you see how this guy operates, he raises when he's turned. So first off, you got to have it here to take up the slack of the missing ball bearing that is inside of there. And then, well, you lose the leverage, because if you pull on it from this hole here is where the cable goes. Well, if you're already here, first you get less throw, but you get less leverage on the throw because the center point to the fulcrum, or backwards, I said that backwards, but the fulcrum to the lever arm is back or less, so you get less leverage to pull the clutch. So typically you adjust wherever the clutch is. You want this guy all the way adjusted in. You want your cable adjuster all the way in. This one doesn't have an adjuster here. He just sits dead against the case, but right there's your adjuster. And see how far the adjuster's adjusted out? That's to take up the slack because the ball's missing. So to get this tight enough, this thing needs to be jacked up all the way here, which makes the clutch not function well. The point is that you set your cable up to make sure this arm is all the way down as far as it can be. And then obviously with this assembled properly, you then take the slack up from this adjuster nut. And then you end up with the full travel and leverage of the clutch. So again, not assembled right, got to do all that and get that done properly. So working on it, but it seems like everything I touch is becoming, oh, there's a problem with that, there's a problem with that, there's a problem with that. And yeah, so a little bit more than I expected to be, but this is usually how it goes, is I go through whatever it takes to go through and do what needs to be done. So I will let you know more when I know more. Talk to you soon. Bye.